The servers are the limit. Apparently, when the sky was supposed to not be the limit, or the sky was, it's apparently no. Apparently, the subtitle of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 should have been The Servers Are the Limit. Anyway, hi there, folks. Welcome to another episode of, and a very special episode of your favorite or possibly least favorite podcast, presented by three very grumpy old simmers. And of course, this week we are joined by a very special guest. So first of all, I'm going to say hello and welcome to our two regulars. I'm joined, of course, first of course, by the Don of the Helicopter Mafia, Sergio from Helisimmer.com.
Hey everyone, how's everything?
Well, I'm guessing probably their servers access is probably a little bad right now. But there are helipads now.
Lots of helipads. That's what saves the product. Yes.
And, of course, joining Sergio in his regular spot, awoken from his slumber by the raging shitfire that has been the launch of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, is Tomcat aficionado Drew BelGeode, taking a break from Skyrim.
Listen, I just got 97% of my nap. I am not in a very good mood right now, okay?
The 97% club. And joining us...
It's still trending on Twitter.
Oh, God, is it? Oh, dear. And joining us as a special guest on our episode today, we are joined by the one, the only, the VR Jose. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, guys. Honored to be here. I've been watching it. Happy to be grumpy with you guys, so I'm ready.
Well, you know, we're really glad to have you on actually here, Jose, because to be honest, out of all of us, you are the one with the most sim time in 2024 than any of us, because I'm still on 0. I have nothing.
And why are you still on 0, however, Tristan?
We are 100%, that is 100% a problem with Aerosoft, because... Frack you, Aerosoft, get your shit together. Holy crap. As if this, okay, there is absolutely going to be a finger wags for me later. We're going to get onto that one in a little bit. But, so we're taking this episode today, folks, to take stock of the veritable absolute dumpster fire that was the launch of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. As I said, I don't even have a key for it, so to be fair, I skipped all the stress of all the trying to get into servers, and I don't get to be a member of the 97% club because of it. But for the three of you, but watching it unfold in real time on social media and, chatting with all of you and many of my other, fellow virtual aviators, how much of a shit show was it for you guys, actually trying to get on and actually trying to use it? So I'm actually gonna start with you, Jose, because you were actually live streaming the whole thing.
Yeah, I was, and I think some of you guys popped in there. I wasn't planning to live stream, but I ended up deciding to live stream. I got inspired by other content creators. I'm like, I'm gonna be home. I'm gonna be here. I'm like, let me give it a shot. So I think because I was kind of expecting a bottleneck. I was saying, I think if I could watch it back, which we could, but I was saying this is going to be a bottleneck. We're going to crash the servers. And everyone's like, go, go, go. And I think I hit install 5 seconds before the countdown. And then it started installing and I'm like, ooh. So it was instant, chaos and bottleneck, and the comments started popping off. So I was expecting it. So I think I was mentally ready for it and emotionally ready. And I was never really upset. Mm-hmm. But I definitely know a lot of people, that wasn't their reaction. They paid for a product and they wanted it. And it was tough. The emotions were all over the board. Some people were saying, calm down. And some people were like, thanks, Dad. And some people wanted a refund. But it's tough, especially even for us, right? I only got in because I'm in your boat, Aerosoft. The item is somewhere in Utah to my house. the 20th is when it started moving. So
I don't even have a tracking a tracking reference for mine yet.
you see,
Hold on, wait a minute. Aerosoft is in Europe, is it not? How in the heck did it end up in China?
Well, that's where they all ship
know,
from. That's where
I think it
that's
was-
where they're all
I
made.
think
Yeah,
this
they're all
was
printed in China.
subcontracted though, right?
Yep.
So Microsoft
Two
said, "Hey, we
contracts.
want a package.
Yep.
Who can do this?" Aerosoft, ram with it, and but the fact that the logistics wasn't figured out, the math wasn't done, ended with me not having a key in time other than Game Pass. So that's how I got in, and that day I got about 3.5 hours of flight time before it crashed, and it took me about 3.5 hours, almost 4 hours to get in. So almost 4 hours to get in, 3.5 hours of flying, and I stayed up for another 30 minutes replaying and talking to the community. And there was 400 people, 500 people in the stream, so it was pretty good.
Yeah,
There were a lot of people watching because I remember getting in there early, and I remember when you hit the button to start downloading, and as soon as you did that, I did that as well. So I figured if you're going to get in, I'm probably going to get in too. Of course, it took me a little while longer. It took me 3 hours total. But you kept me company, so there is that.
Yeah.
I got in long enough to do my own video, which hopefully everybody should have seen by now on YouTube. And it's the typical chill vid flight. Once I was able to get in, everything was for the most part hunky-dory. I spent an hour basically setting up my controls, making my avatar and all of that good crap. And then heading to, of all places, Kiribati. Yeah.
I have to watch it still. I clicked on it today, but I didn't even get to start it. I got distracted.
And
yeah, a lot of people have been saying it. I think everybody's still trying to log in. Nobody's watched my video yet. They're like, okay, that you got in, that's great. Yeah, shut up.
It was a bit of green with envy there, yeah. And yourself, Sergio, I think you got in a little later, didn't you?
Yeah. I don't know how much later it was, a couple of hours, perhaps, something like that. I don't actually remember. I had no issues with installing, and I had no issues with logging in. I logged in instantly, but I am having issues. The sim is taking about 15 minutes every single time to load. So it's by the time it loads, I'm already fed up with it. I did try some things. Got to try the H125 again. Got to check out the career modes and other stuff. But after I think an hour or so, I was kicked out of the servers. Tried a couple of times, got into the queue, and just dropped it and went to do other stuff.
So it actually booted you out. It wasn't like you quit to menu or something. You'd actually just see you mid-flight and bye.
Yeah. I got an error. Got an error saying that the connection with the server was lost. Blah blah blah. Yada yada yada. QR code. The code. Blah blah blah. Mumbo jumbo. I just okay. Tried to log in again. Didn't manage to. Just dropped it and just went to do other stuff. And just forgot it for that day. The day after, I managed to log in. I have managed to log in every single time, but it takes me 15 minutes to load the freaking thing. So yeah, I just I'm up to a point in which I wouldn't say. Here's the thing: I'm not frustrated or resentful or anything like that. I just don't have the patience, to be honest, and the energy to be constantly fighting the sim. I had a couple of CTDs when selecting the aircraft, so I did manage to try the career mode, but we'll talk about that a bit later. But yeah, it wasn't a smooth experience. I think that
to be honest with y'all guys, I haven't even tried to log back in since that very first day, the 19th of November, when I was able to get in and do that recording. I haven't even opened the thing up.
You're trying to keep your good run streak, and it's just not. Yep, okay.
I'm not jinxing it.
Well, yeah. As I said, I wanted to ask everyone the sort of login experience because, we and for reference, folks, so on our various social media platforms, we shared a survey that we were asking the community to fill out, and we're going to go through some of the results that have come out of that survey that we did. So of that survey. 44% of people who responded could not access it at all on the 19th, on the first day. And of that 44% of those many people, 25% still hadn't been able to access as of today.
Wow.
And it's like, oh, that's not a good look at all. But for those who were able to access it and get in, the most common response, it was I sort of gave a range of times, like how many hours did it take before you got into the sim to actually be able to start flying. And the majority at 38% was between 1 and 3 hours. But then, 3 to 10 hours was, just do the quick math on here, and those percentages together, 28, 47%. It took between 3 and 10 hours to get in and actually be able to fly. So not the character, the avatar created and stuff like that. It's to actually get in and get a flight and get off the ground. And I'm like, I saw those numbers as they were coming in, and they've been pretty constant about that since the survey was open to when it's closed. And it was like, oh, that's not good. And and to sort of say, to paraphrase something that you talked about before, Jose, like, we kind of knew that there was going to be some challenges. We knew it, but let's call it for what it is. This was ridiculous. Like, this is like, even for me, and I get called a Microsoft shill on a very regular basis because I keep telling people to calm the fuck down and just relax, and tire smoke doesn't actually matter. But
unsub.
But having said that, this shit show is unacceptable. Like, this isn't Microsoft's first rodeo here. This is not the first time that they've done a major game launch. This is not the first time that they have launched. Okay, let me clarify this. This is not the first time that they have launched a large-scale modern flight simulator. Because let's be honest,
I was going to say, remember FSX?
Yeah, exactly. So but what did you have to worry about with online with FSX? Anyway, this isn't their first rodeo. They've had now 4 years since their last launch, or 4 years and a couple of months since their last launch. And, that launch, I'm not going to say it was great, because it wasn't. But at the same time, it looks positively stellar in compared to this shit show.
Yep.
Is that a fair comment to make?
Mm-hmm.
That in terms of launch, it's gone backwards?
Yeah, I had a feeling it was going to go this way. In fact, Jose, remember on your stream, I kept commenting, what's the Vegas over under this launch being a success? And, I've been saying it for weeks. I've told many people that I have a nagging feeling they are just not ready for prime time. Everything felt rushed. Everything felt like, they were grossly underestimating the community, which they always do. We've got a long history of this, starting from, 2020, when we had to fight to get VR in there.
They've got 4 years of data about how many people use it. They have an entire launch window that was spaced out over a 24-hour release window. Sorry, Kiribati, you didn't get your massive influx of citizens this time like you did last time. But, you had
there.
We should get those shirts made. I was there in Kiribati in 2020. Yeah. But, you had... they it's not like they don't have the data points. And I think that's the part, as somebody who's very data-driven, that's what really, blows my mind. You had the data points of 2020 where you had a staggered release over 24 hours. You saw the number of people whose Microsoft account locations miraculously suddenly changed to Kiribati so they could access the sim early. How did you possibly think that we weren't going to get, with all the hype that's been going on, I mean, Sergio, you, Sergio, and you, Jose, you were both there, in the Grand Canyon. Bringing you guys out there, the hype that you saw, what you saw as well. Like, how were they thinking that this wasn't going to be the case again?
It's really interesting. This obviously interests me for a set of reasons. One of them being the technical, me looking at this from a technical standpoint, and the other one is from the user, content creator, whatever standpoint. The technical me wonders what was it that went wrong, because I saw. Here's the thing, there's a lot of things that can go wrong, and I was checking out an article. I think it was released yesterday or today, which I think had a misleading title, which is a shame for the website that it is, which is Tom's Hardware. It's a relevant website. It has been a relevant website for a long time. Technical website. The guys have been really good, and they had a bit of what I think it's a misleading title, based on the video that Microsoft released, explaining the situation. And by the way, to their credit, we don't see a lot of developers doing what Microsoft did
and owning it and giving an update live.
Right.
Yeah, they went on camera. Sebastian and York went on camera explaining what was happening, right? These guys from Tom's Hardware released it. I don't remember the title exactly, but they were saying that Microsoft predicted that only 200,000 users would be trying to get into Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. And this was they extrapolated this based on one thing that Sebastian said, that they have done tests with 200,000 users. Now, when you test with 200,000 users, you're not planning for 200,000 users. What they probably did, and this is why I extrapolated, this is my interpretation, they tried to they did their tests with 200,000 concurrent users.
Yep.
So 200,000 virtual or real, but probably virtual, throughout their cloud system.
Yep.
200,000 users connecting to their servers and getting served, and which means that they could probably, using these numbers, and things are, of course, are not linear. Growth is not linear in when we were talking about computer stuff, but we're talking about if they manage 200,000 users, concurrent users, this means that they could probably serve a few millions per minute.
Yeah,
so
the extrapolation of the data, and it goes up from there, and that's your test case. I used to write test cases for databases, so yeah, I 100% agree on that one. Yeah,
exactly. So
paper.
Yeah, so I find it a bit hard to believe. I'm not saying I don't believe at all, but I find it a bit hard to believe that they were not predicting a big influx, right? Because when you do a test with 200,000 concurrent users, that's a huge test, right? I mean, that is a huge test. It's a very big. It's a sign that you are waiting for millions of users to get into your servers and hammer your servers. So I wonder what went wrong, and think everything can go wrong. I was just giving an example earlier today, and I'm telling this story so that people understand a bit of how sometimes things so simple can just complicate everything. I'm working with a team, and we did some of these tests, and we had a single server, and we had an endpoint on that server. So an endpoint is a virtual place where a system connects to do something. And we had an endpoint, and we managed to get 1,600 requests per second, which was pretty good considering what we were doing. 500 was our goal. We managed to get 1,600, which was pretty good. On another endpoint, that did pretty much the same thing. We noticed that it was responding to only 300 requests per second. And we tried to find out what it was. And it was something as simple as one of the functions inside that endpoint was using an encryption system that would just, make it would just slow down the code by a lot.
Yep.
And, even if we added 2 or 3 or 4 servers, we didn't have a huge growth. So it was a very simple thing that could just kill that service altogether. So it takes very small things, and sometimes it's very hard to find those small things to get something like this to blow up. Do I think that they underestimated? I think they did underestimate, not as grossly as people think or as some people are trying to get the community to believe. I don't think it was a gross misunderstanding of the community. I think it was a misunderstanding of the community. I'm not saying it wasn't. I think it was, but I don't think it was that gross. Something went wrong. I would love to know what it was. We'll never know. That's the truth. Well, but the technical me would love to understand what was behind this.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And from because like you, from a technical perspective, like having done plenty of work in that space as well. Like I'm also certain that it was something insignificantly small that nobody would have thought to test. And the other side of it is something else that I want to say as well is that people, and I started questioning this myself. It's like, why are they releasing a major title on a Tuesday? Like, why would you do that? And I actually thought about it for quite a while because, you look at traditional game release days. Games are traditionally released on Thursday or Friday. Friday so you can catch the weekend crowd, Thursday so you can have a problem on day one, rush a patch out so it's fixed in time for the majority of users because, the idea would be that you only have a fairly small user base that can access it and play it during the week. I'm talking about, things like, Call of Duty, Valorant, all that kind of stuff. Like, their days are on Thursdays, because if it goes wrong, you still have a day and a bit to be able to get it ready for prime time, because most people don't play until the weekends. So I actually think that, to your point, Sergio, that I think that, yes, I also agree 100% they underestimate the community, because I think they expected that, much like that, they would have a smaller number of people downloading it, or just downloading it and maybe not playing it, so you could actually get this kind of data available to find any things they need to urgently patch. I don't think they realize exactly. I think they underestimated how passionate the community is. The number of people I know who took the day off from work or several days off from work just so they could fly the sim. And oh my God, the number of people who I fielded of, it's the 19th in Australia, it's the 19th in India. Why don't I have it yet here? Because it's it's not the 19th in America yet, kind of thing. So, and
but to be fair, we go through that every update, every game. We do that all the time with them. The whole time zone thing, people still have not grasped.
This is why, just give it in Zulu. Done. Stop.
Yes.
Anyway, so I think that I definitely agree that it was they massively underestimated the community, but maybe not as massively as people think. But because I think that they definitely did have some contingencies and some plans in place. So again, and like you said, Sergio, I think something happened that we are never going to know about.
I have a question as we brew on this. So who does this kind of fall more on? Microsoft or Asobo? I mean, Microsoft is, I guess, the publisher. Asobo is behind the scenes. It's not that I'm trying to assign blame, but I mean, I can only imagine, like, as they were both talking, I mean, when that video came out, somebody had mentioned that it must have been very late for Seb to make that video.
It was stupid o'clock in the morning is what it was. It was 0 dark 30 for him. And he would have been up all night. He would have been up all night.
And my thought was just like,
with my usual boogeyman. It was marketing. It's all marketing's fault.
Yeah.
They're the ones who decided to do it November 19th.
And I don't even know if that's a fair question to ask, but.
I'll say I would say it's a mix of both. Because as Zobo is working with Microsoft and the Azure team, the Azure team, to get all this in place.
Yeah.
So everything could have gone wrong. Was it the software part that went wrong? So was it code that went wrong? Was that code by Asobo, which probably was? was actually a virtual machine or machine issue, networking issue, database issue.
Data center failure, something. Who
Yeah,
knows?
where the database is set up by the Azure team, where does the database is set up by Azobo? It's really hard to know because we have two entities that in this case I would assume they are working very close together.
Yeah.
So it's like, although they are two different entities, I would say they are pretty much a team in this regard. So it's going, unless we know exactly what happened, what went wrong, which again I don't think we'll ever know. It will be very difficult to pinpoint.
To speculate, yeah, and maybe it's not even worth speculating. I mean, I think so. So what's the takeaway? I think
you actually raise a, sorry to cut you off, Sergio, but Jose, you actually raise a really good point, which is actually sort of a great segue actually onto something I wanted to talk about, because I don't agree with assigning blame. I agree with you have to learn. We will probably never find out what happened, but as long as they learn from it, I'm okay with it. In terms of whose fault or responsibility it is, for the launch side, sorry, Sergio, I'm 100% going to lay this one at Microsoft rather than Asobo, because for a couple of reasons, and I'm not talking about and I'm not just talking about the servers. I'm not just talking about the streaming data. I'm not talking about, was it load tested properly or anything like that. It's just, for XYZ, ABC, number of reasons, whatever, the infrastructure was not in place for the launch. Whether that was caused by something they could test for or couldn't test for, I don't know. But fundamentally, for me, the launch instructor and marketing, the launch date would have been set by Microsoft. The launch date would have been set by Microsoft. The marketing is all done by Microsoft. So it's Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's not a Asobo Flight Simulator. So for the launch side of things and the issues at launch, I'm kind of going to assign them to for me, it sits at Microsoft's door, because at the end of the day, if you have, if a bookcase behind me, collapses, I'm not going to go and try and find the factory in China that made it. I'm going to go for the brand of the company that I bought it from. Even though there's 20 different brands, they all sell the same thing. It all comes out of the same factory. Like it's the image, it's the perception, which is something else part of this really long episode we're going to get into. Is the brand perception. So for me, I kind of put that one on Microsoft. But where I wanted to, as I said, where this makes a really good segue is into the sim itself, because I think that's the second part of this conversation that is being danced around by a lot of people. Is this sim is not again, fully owning this, I don't have it. I've got zero time in this sim. I've not gone in there, but I'm seeing the number of things I'm seeing from multiple users. So it's not like, it's just, little Johnny who is trying to run it on a 1995, Hackintosh and somehow, putting it on there. It's high-end systems with missing textures, unable to find, Jose, your stream. I watched, in and out of your stream for pretty much the entire thing, and pink textures appearing on FOD guards. You weren't able to get back into the aeroplane after going out on your walk around.
Entire airplane missing.
I'm
features
sort of
missing. There are features in the aircraft that are missing.
That were advertised that were going to be there, and they're not. It's like
half your aircraft inventory missing.
To be fair, they actually did explain that. One. They said that due to server capacity, that would be a phased release over several days. The core stuff is what you would get at launch. They did actually explain that.
Jose, let me ask you something because I'm the guy that spends 15 minutes looking at the loading screen. So I'm getting old, so I fall asleep before I manage to get into the menu.
Yeah.
I remember a feature that we saw at the Grand Canyon that I don't remember. I haven't looked for it, but I just remember that I didn't see it there. I stumbled with one of the feature back in the Grand Canyon, but I don't remember see it here. Did you find a way for us to record our voice for the ATC to use it? Is it there?
I didn't look for it, but that was a prompt right from the beginning.
Yeah, because it was in the alpha.
But you know what? It gave us a section to pick a voice.
Yeah.
But I did. I just like listened to the top 3 and I selected one. I mean, I just wanted to get into the game. I was like, I'll redo my character later. But even in Arizona, I tried it. I tried with the microphone. I'm like, does this work on? They're like, yeah, it works. And I was trying to give the AI my voice so I could hear it. I didn't want to waste time on it, and I skipped it in Arizona.
Yeah, I saw it in the Tech Alpha as well. I didn't see it here.
Mm-hmm.
So it was removed. It was a feature that was removed.
Well, that's not surprising, though, guys.
We had that back in Renton. We had that in Renton. There were a bunch of things in Renton.
The whole walking around thing.
That was back in 2020. Like the pre-flight walk around in first person. That was there back in 2020. Mm-hmm. But they pulled it. It was in the build that we got access to as press, as media.
Yeah,
we got access to it, and then they pulled it.
But there's a difference
here. A lot of the features
that
are there now were.
But there's a difference here.
Taken out.
There's a difference here. They actually mentioned the feature and they kind of highlighted the feature when talking to us.
Oh yeah. Whereas when we found the walk around feature, it was kind of oh yeah. You could see the look. You could see the look on a couple of them's face going, "You weren't supposed to see that."
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that makes me wonder, or just goes in line with what you were saying, Tristan. There's stuff that definitely it wasn't finished.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many little things, I mean, for me, mainly focused on VR, I found so many things as simple as the mouse not working in VR. Yeah. And to me, that was devastating. I'm like, my gosh, so that forced me to spend, like Drew said, I don't know if you did it on purpose or not, but I had to bind everything I wanted to use in VR. Brakes, flaps, gears, everything, spoilers, just because. And not only that, I had to bind that for, well, I guess I could have gone around it, but helicopters and then jets and then props. And I was like, it's not fully transferred over. I was trying to understand the control system. Yeah. So my point is, there was definitely a lot of stuff that I saw specific to VR, which I know that they did have a VR section or department, whatever that meant, whether there's 1, 2, or 3 developers on it, or if maybe it's part of their goal or their job. But since that's gone, I'm like, man,
yeah,
I know people that would do this for free for you guys, and just be that voice of reason, and just like, hey, look, this is key for VR. This is things that we need, but it's on this voted list, which, they're like, yeah, controllers are in, this is in. And I mean, we're going to hit a big old reset button, but I'll end with this. It kind of feels like a lot of wheels were reinvented. Like the key bindings are just all over the place, it's just things that were solid and steady.
Yep.
You don't get Command and Conquer 1 and then you go Command and Conquer 2 and then they just reassign all the keys like spaghetti. Like, here you go, make it up. It's like, no, we're used to this works on the first go. Why not keep it, whatever the game is? So
I'm so glad you just said that they have people that would do this for free. Because we have been insisting with them for so long to involve the community in testing.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And we didn't even have a beta testing, or at least a beta testing that we know of.
That's been the number one thing I've been bitching about for months.
I couldn't believe
they
that.
They have
2 tech alphas not enough.
They have an amazingly big, interested, committed, serious community, more than willing to help them, just for the sake of helping them make a better product. And unfortunately, they still haven't used that asset that they have.
You can't buy that kind of commitment that this community shows to it. You can't.
You can't.
Yeah.
And people would commit. People would test. People would provide their input. But I agree with I agree with Drew. I think I also blame marketing for what happened, because I think they ended up with the dates and not enough time to do whatever they would. Now, here's the thing. Even if they had the time, unfortunately, I don't believe they would use the community to help them out.
No.
Because they haven't in the past, which is a shame. We are all here.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm not going to disagree with you.
You know, the four of us would be more than happy to help. And there's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 times more people out there in the community that, like us, would be thrilled to be able to help make this a better product.
Yep.
Right. So it's a real shame that they don't use their assets. I don't think that there are not a lot of companies that have, such a big and committed community.
They're really
so willing to put in the effort to help them make it a better product.
And that's just it. Is that and I agree. Is that there aren't a lot of communities, whether it be, let's be honest, mostly gaming, but or gaming, software, whatever, with the exception of probably, ironically, I would actually say the Linux community. The Linux community probably would be the only other community that would go out of their way to be like, hey, we will help you troubleshoot and test stuff. But the flight sim community, absolutely, there are so many people, and this goes back to the whole reason why I was so excited for 2020 in the first place, is that it's made flight simming so much more accessible, and so many more people are able to do it now, that we've got more people than ever before interested in it, and at various levels of it, various levels. But to handle it like this, and again, like with the launch and the content, Sergio, it made me think of it as well. Before you mentioned that, Tom's Hardware managed to write an article about it. I mean, and for Christ's sakes, Jay's 2 cents over on YouTube made an entire video about how bad not only was the launch, but also then tore the sim apart about, how what it's not doing, what it's doing and what it's not doing. I disagree with quite a number of his conclusions because, but however, the fact that he's even talking about it shows how badly this whole thing was handled. Everything from the development of the sim through the marketing and through the launch, and to where we're at right now, which is, let's be honest, it's not a great place. It absolutely is not. People were far more willing to forgive them after the issues they had at the start of 2020 because, one, it was pretty clear that it was released early. They all but said, we pulled this forward several months. They all but. And given the fact that this one was released on November 19, my guess is the original target release date was sometime in November of the original MSFS 2020. But they pulled it forward because of COVID. I completely understand why they did it. I don't have a problem with it, but everybody was a lot more willing to let it go because, one, it was staggered launch. It wasn't handled great, but it also wasn't as bad as this. And they were very clear from the upfront saying, it's not finished. It's finished, but not. This one...
we all know, too, that bad news travels way faster in today's world than good news. So I'm really not surprised to see people just lambasting it and ripping it apart.
Yeah.
Within minutes of not being able to get in and so on. Yeah. What were the Steam numbers? Overwhelmingly negative.
97-something%. It was awful.
If you've actually been in the sim and tried it, it's really not that bad. Once they sort out this hurdle that they're going through, especially for VR users, not counting the people that are currently having performance issues. Honestly, my performance has been through the roof for the brief time that I've been in the sim in VR. The sim has a lot of positive, a lot of potential and everything going for it, but it's being drowned out. It's literally being drowned out right now because of the nightmare, the debacle that we have with the launch. And and of course, to their credit, Asobo's really trying to get it fixed and whatever. But yeah, if they would have gone a route of, earlier beta, more focus groups, we probably, I'm not going to say 100% we would have, but we probably would have helped to mitigate some of this. For weeks, I've been saying that, there's a lot more demand being generated. There's a lot more hype going out for this thing. When you all went to the Grand Canyon, it's really a good thing that they didn't invite me out there, because I would have said all of this crap to their face over there. I knew they were not going to be ready. But it's just, with everything that's been going on, yes, they really do need to take a closer look at the community and get the community more involved. Just between the four of us, how many different aspects of the community can we address? VR, the fighter pilots, helicopters, and so on, GA, bush pilots, everybody who's into like different things. We could easily, just under our four combined might, come up with focus groups for Microsoft and Asobo to utilize to help fine-tune certain aspects of the sim, or the sim in general. There's a huge resource out there, Microsoft and Asobo, a huge resource. You're literally looking at it. We're all ride or die for this sim. We all sat there waiting for this damn thing to download. People are still posting now on Facebook, is this thing really supposed to take 5 hours to download? No, it's not supposed to take 5 hours to download, but they're still doing it. In spite of everything. You got to tap into that. You got to use that.
And to pick up on that as well, like as I said, like going through the survey responses that we collected, when people finally got into the sim, they're for the most part, they're really enjoying it. Like, there's a lot of the positive things, most of it focused around the improvements in graphics.
I agree.
The improvements in the overall smoothness and quality of VR. There's several comments in there about, some of the controls in VR not being great.
I still need my red-headed co-pilot, but and my purple hat, by the way.
Purple hat. Yep. It's funny, actually interesting, because clearly there's been a couple of these responses that have come in, obviously post the immediate launch, because I'm actually reading one right here. Furiously fast download and install. Really good performance update from install to flight. And I'm like, so obviously, so the key part is that when it works, it works.
Yeah.
And again, that goes back to your point earlier, Sergio, that whatever gremlin is in the system there somewhere, they may not have been able to do a good test for it. But everything that there's a lot of stuff coming in here. The fact that you got a built-in EFB on everything, and the large aircraft selection, even in the base edition, so there is a lot of positive, but the negative seems to overall, ironically, continue to be the same things that we've seen, in the past. Things about like the photogrammetry not aligning, the aerial data not matching what the Black Shark AI is generating, which, to be fair, I've seen quite a few screenshots and side-by-side comparisons between 2020 and 2024. Whatever data set they're using seems to be if they're using WGS84, it's offset by like 0.001 or 0.005 or something, because everything is consistently off the photoreal underneath it by about like 10 meters. It's hilarious.
Somebody accidentally nudged their mouse while they were doing it.
And that's the thing, is that it probably was. And again, to the point, Sergio and Drew, that you both made, if they engage the community to do a proper fucking beta test, we would have found this. Instead, all we got was a weekend-long tech alpha to test two specific things, and then there was I can't make any further. Can't make any further comments because of NDAs. Anyway, but there was the developers got a very limited release of what we saw prior to release.
That's another thing.
And let's just say, we in the developer community were not happy.
Yeah, that's another thing that kind of bugs me. You know, the developer relationship. They need someone to work with them, to just nudge them about this communication with developers.
Yeah, they need
So
like a
let me just add something to what we said already regarding the beta team. We not only have people that cover a lot of different areas, we have a lot of people that have been doing this for many years. You know, on this screen right now, we have like, I don't know, 120 years of experience combined, something like that.
Back in my day.
Okay. Yeah, and we have different backgrounds. We have developers, we have artists, we have people that come from all the different backgrounds, and they have all different professions, and all of them can help Microsoft and can help Azubo on many areas. About developers, I think I told this to Jorg once. They should have someone. They probably have someone inside Microsoft that handles developers, but perhaps that person should be a bit more vocal, because I have talked with developers, and if there's such a person, that person had never talked with developers.
Probably one of these situations where their hands are tied and they're only meant to be the messenger person.
Well, and unfortunately, it's a double-edged. It's also who do who does that voice need to come from? Because again, going back to what we talked about before, about Jose, when you were talking about who's to blame, or where's the responsibility lie, so blame shouldn't use that word. No, where does the responsibility, where lessons go from? Is it Microsoft or is it Asobo? So Sergio, to your point, there's two answers to your question, because there's a Microsoft side that are responsible for integrations and for dealing with developers. There's two parts to it. There's dealing with the integrations and the marketplace side, and then there's also the sim side. And who that is there a single point of contact when you're coming from two, because you've got literally thousands of developers now. Because again, one of the good things about this sim is that it's a lot more open for developers, rightly or wrongly, for various different opinions. People have various different opinions about this. Rightly or wrongly, it's a lot easier to develop for this sim than pretty much any previous iteration. However, not only have you got all these inputs coming in from all these different things, you're also directing them towards two gateways. And which one do they go to? And if you go to the wrong one, does the message get to the one that needs to go to? So I think you raise a really good point, Sergio. But it's just that's why I think there's this, and it could be more than one person, but there's this figure that should be the one that whatever it is that you need, that person would know who to redirect the developers to. That person would be syncing with all the entities that are related with this situation, both the external developers, but also the internal developers or the internal marketplace team.
Yeah,
it would be someone that would have 360 degrees of vision. It doesn't need to be someone that actually is an operative that does something. When the developer asks, that person goes and do something. That person can perhaps direct the developer into to talk with the right person, because that figure would know what's what and who's who.
Yeah,
and would be a point of contact. And when I say a figure, it could be more. If we're talking about thousands of developers, so we probably have to have just like banks have people that are in charge of your accounts.
It's
like
fine
that.
to have that, but it's something as simple as have a collective point, have a single point of contact. It might be 30 people, but have it all going through one single email. So you reach out to this email and do that.
You notice that? It always comes down to communication. That has been the one thing that we have been constantly going on about.
Which frustrates the ever-loving shit out of me, because they've been doing such a good job.
Yeah, on many areas, it's absolutely incredible.
Straight up, like compare them to like my favorite punching bag. I love them dearly, but X-Plane, and DCS, and actually no, my favorite punching bag, Lockheed Martin. Let's be honest, for Prepared, like look at.
I'm sorry, who?
But yeah, look at the what do we hear from them? We don't.
Yeah.
There's no weekly. I'd like to remind the audience as well. Weekly, we hear from the Microsoft team, Microsoft and Asobo team. Sorry, we hear from them weekly. It might be something small. It might only be 5 minutes instead of other weeks. It's an hour, 2 hours of them talking to us. But every week they are talking to us. Every week they show legitimately that they are reading the forums, which again frustrates the ever-loving shit out of me, because to all of your points, they know they've got a passionate community. They know they've got people who are excited and waiting for this. They knew how many people were going to do this and get on this on day one, particularly with it again being on Game Pass.
And now you know why they had to make the video that they made the night of November 19th.
Yeah, and again, like I'm giving them full kudos and full credit to that, because let's be honest, what other game we've all seen shitty game launches in the last couple of years. Like pretty much show me a AAA title that actually launched smoothly in the last 2 years. Probably longer.
I've played at least 3 of them just in the last year.
Yeah. So none of them, to my knowledge, had the head of programming, like the head of product, and the CEO of the developing studio get on a live video and say, basically, we fucked up.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
That was amazing and impressive.
So yeah,
I have to say,
full
I gotta
credit to
give
them for that.
kudos to Jane, because I know she was probably getting roasted the entire day. Because remember, she's got Discord that she's got to take care of too.
Yeah.
That was
Y'all need to give Jane a break. She's just working here.
Yeah.
that Discord is a shit show.
Hey,
So anyway,
can I say something before we stray too far from it? Going back to the developer talk, just to kind of like share my thoughts. So think about this. There's Microsoft, Asobo, right? Just call them one company. It's the parent company making this happen, right? Then we have the users, right? So it's the software. We're the users. The other big picture we were talking about is the developers, right? Microsoft has said for the community, by the community. Is that something like that? Right? Am I misquoting them? They're picking up
sentiments there, yeah.
Yeah, in basic theory.
They're having people who do certain products well, like, hey, you know what? Let's bring you on board. And it's good, right? So here is Jane, who is the community manager for us, for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. She has a team of people that help her kind of get stuff done. There's a lot that she's doing, but I'm sure she has other people, right? There's admins and moderators that help run that. But imagine if there was a separate forum for developers with someone running it. They don't even have to be that much of a public figure. They could be, but someone who's in that position that allowed developers, hey, listen, you want to give feedback, you have questions, you need things done, put it into this form that's strictly for developers only, where they can have conversations, do stuff, and there's the equivalent of Jane over there, filter stuff up, and then that person is the liaison, the point of contact. That can turn around and say, hey, listen, this is critical. They have an understanding of the product, what's going on. They need that,
So,
like my thought.
That's the figure I was talking about. That's exactly that.
And the funny part is that is halfway there right now. So there is a developer only forum that is managed by Asobo. But there isn't a single POC on there. Like it's just and look, and I'm on there because as a developer, a lot of things get posted there, and they can, and they do work with us. Absolutely. And Asobo does work with us on issues and they do take note of things and things like that. However, I think I know where you're going with this, is that having that single point of contact, that single figurehead per se, to be able to say, that's who I need to speak with. Even if they do nothing for me, they will know who in their team to point me to. There isn't really that.
Even the live streams. I'm sorry, Tristan, just to pick it up.
Yeah.
Even everything that we were just mentioning, the fact that we have a lot of communication, a lot of videos coming from the community. Why not do the same? Just exclusively for developers, having those streams for developers with developers asking questions. It had to be something private, but it could be done.
That would be fantastic.
Instead of the marketing thing that they did where they're showcasing what the developers are doing, which, don't get me wrong, huge points to all the third-party developers that have now become first-party developers. But yeah, that's all great. But we need to shift that focus exactly like Sergio was saying, towards the developers to get them the tools they need.
So we're not caught on the hop on day one launch,
and then posting 5-chapter-long missives about what works, what doesn't work, and giving the community tips.
Who possibly greenlit the migration of content on Marketplace from 2020 to 2024 without testing each and every one of them? Like, how did we get 4 hours into launch day, like post-launch release, before they figured out that there's something in the Marketplace add-on that is causing the sim to fail? How did we get there? Like, and again, not wanting to assign blame, but the questions have got to be asked, and people are rightly pissed. And this is the thing, right? Look, I always try and be the voice of reason and the balance and all the rest of it. And I'm always saying, hey, we said this back at 2020 when people were sort of like, or people, whenever we have a sim update, and it's like, Asobo wrecked my game. They wrecked my sim. They wrecked my sim.
Off for months.
It's like, yeah, cool. Yeah. Take your add-on out, and if it works, it's not Asobo's fault. But to the point we've got a new sim launching, the community, in my opinion, is absolutely justified in being pissed. And look, for me, I've basically dodged a lot of these what are we up to, day 4 issues, because I still don't have my sim yet, because fuck you, Aerosoft. But
Let
also,
me see if they wrote back to me.
But also, I have to say, so look, to be fair, the support desk at Aerosoft, I put a thing in saying, hey, it's launch day. I don't have a key. I followed the instructions in your email to do all the things. You said I was going to get a key and get a Game Pass code. So because their solution was they would send a Game Pass code and then they would distribute it digitally based on the token that I use for Game Pass. But I never got it. And they're like, so I put a thing with their support team and I was like, hey, the fuck? And they were like, oh, no, you're in the US, so you're going to get yours. You'll get a shipping tracking notice shortly. So also, total own here on the Facebook group that I manage. I had made a comment on a user's post who had been complaining about the same thing because like me, they'd pre-ordered the Limited Collector's Edition, and they were wondering the same thing. And I'd follow, and I said, hey, did you read the email from Aerosoft saying do all of this? Hey, I'll own it. I did all of it. And they still fucked me up too. So apologies to that user, because it turns out you were absolutely right. I gave them too much credit. Anyway.
That particular user, by the way, does have an update post that their stuff is finally shipped out.
Yeah.
So
he's now in a better position than I am. He has a tracking number. I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
So, this is the thing, right?
Are y'all starting to see why I've spent the rest of the week not even close to any flight sim at all? I've just been in Skyrim Creation Kit making islands and castles and stuff. At least it boots up every time. I don't get stuck at 97.
Sorry, can we have a shout out? Can we give a shout out to Parallel 42 for their post saying,
that was brilliant.
Hey, by the way, just so you know, all of our products still work in Flight Sim 2020, and there's no queue to get in. Can we give a shout out to the team at 42 for that? Because, like, well done, guys. But here's, like, to my point, like, okay, we've talked about everything. This was an absolutely perfect storm of multiple things going absolutely wrong. We could play the blame game till the cows come home, but it's not going to get us anywhere. But the point is that, and to their credit, Microsoft and Asobo have already started stepping up to the plate and saying the fact that they released that video on launch day saying, hey, we fucked up, like, you know, they're made a great start there. But I think I'm not going to say that users are right to be able to get a refund because they couldn't, because of the game, like, you know, going past the 2 hours or whatever it is for Steam refunds and stuff like that, and Microsoft Store just basically not giving refunds. But at the same time, and I am absolutely the last person that talks about compensation. I am absolutely the last person that talks about it. But at the same time, I've got to say that there's a case to be made, because any one of the things that we've talked about so far, I'd be like, okay, launch day teething troubles, no worries. All together, it's bad. Like,
yeah, this caused a lot of grief to people, and and as you said, Tristan, a lot of people took the day off to play the sim. Some guys
about
took
all
the
the
week
new
off.
people too. All the people that have always heard, you know, great things from us, the community.
Yeah, for the last
getting
4 years.
into the whole thing.
Yeah.
For the last
It's
4
quite
years.
frustrating. It's quite frustrating.
From a marketing point of view, like, it's and you know, shout out to Xbox ANZ for this one. Like, I'd sent them some questions about some things, and they came back and basically said, as you probably saw, I love how they said something like, as you probably saw, we had some issues on launch day. I'm like, that has to be the understatement of the year. Like,
you don't say.
But it's a
surprise.
So I don't know. Like, what does everybody else think? Like one of the common, like, that basically, again, going through the survey results that we had earlier, that we collected, I was both surprised and not about how many people were saying they were wanting refunds, or they tried to get refunds and they couldn't get them because they'd exceeded the playtime. That's a strong negative reaction.
It's just a small, very important note, Tristan.
Yeah.
I think most of the people that went past the 2-hour limit did it while waiting for the sim to load.
While waiting for the sim just
to
just not even that, just waiting for it to install. Like,
absolutely,
and I agree.
Log in.
Yeah, no, I agree, because they have, and like, I think, and on the Facebook group, you know, somebody posted in there, you know, Steam playtime 9.5 hours. No, that's how long he's been installing and trying to access the servers. Like, he has zero flight time. So yeah, I really do have a lot more sympathy for this, and as I said, I'm not saying that we should all get refunds, or we should all get a free airplane or something. I'm not saying that at all, but at the same time, something has to give, because whatever the situation was, and again, I'm not blaming anybody for any one particular thing. It's a perfect storm of multiple things, of multiple issues. You know, as I said, we've got infrastructure that was not ready, infrastructure that was, for whatever reason, clearly failed when it needed to. We've got, you know, features that are not present that were promised at launch. We've got, you know, basic fundamentals of multiplayer not live on launch. We've got basic features not present.
The marketplace is not there. Of all things,
Or you're not without a marketplace.
Marketplace.
That's the one that I am the least worried about. So, surprise, surprise, we had a lot to say about this dumpster fire.
You don't
so much
say.
so that somebody had actually had to tune out and watch a movie while we were talking. Anyway, so
In VR, no less.
so we are taking a break. Join us shortly for that wraps up part 1. Join us shortly for part 2, where we continue to have a look at some more other causes and what the future holds.